got a question about what you do with receivers on your counter run, so I'm going to answer that in this video. So if that interests you, stick around and check it out. What's up, everybody? It's Coach Ross with Coach Ross Football. Welcome back to the channel. Again, like the intro said, we're going to be talking about what to do with receivers on your counter runs. Do you block them? Do you run them in bubble screens? Do you RPO them? Multiple things you can do. Got a question from a viewer that I wanted to answer. He asked some questions, so I'm going to go ahead and try to answer those best I can in this video. So if that interests you, again, like I said in the intro, stick around. Welcome back to the channel. I'm Coach Ross. If you've never been here before, this channel is dedicated to offensive football, primarily out of the spread. So we talk about the air raid, we talk about the run and shoot, we talk about passing concepts and running schemes and how to pass pro and all kinds of different things that revolve around the spread offense. So if that's something you're interested in, please subscribe to the channel. Also, if you like this video or any of my other videos, make sure you give them a like. It helps the videos get seen and helps to get this content out to more other coaches who need the help. Like I said, I got a question from a viewer a couple weeks ago asking about what you do with your receivers on your counter runs. You know, can you diagram it? Can you show what you do with your receivers? And there is no right or wrong answer for this. This is kind of just based on opinion, based on what I would do, what I have done. So there is no right or wrong answer. There's no 100% concrete way to do it. However, this is how I do it. And if you take it as gospel, that's fine. So I got a question from a viewer a couple weeks ago, and I apologize for not being able to answer it sooner than I could. Again, football has just started here in North Carolina, so I'm extremely busy with our program. So trying to get to this as soon as I possibly could. But the viewer asked, what do you do with your receivers during your counter? When you run counter, what are your receivers doing? Can you diagram what they're doing? And again, like most things that I talk about on this channel, there is no one way or one size fits all as far as what you do through your offense. It's basically what fits for you. It's what works for you. And, obviously there are multiple ways to go about it, but this is the ways or the things that I do, my receivers in my offense. If you do something different, please let me know. But again, I'm gonna answer the viewer's question based on what I would do. So I'm gonna show you some ways in which I use the receivers and how I use the receivers on just their counter run scheme based on formation, alignments of the defense, different things that I do with the receivers to obviously keep the defense guessing, keep the defense off balance. Because that's the name of the game, is always keeping the defense guessing. Because if you've listened to some of my previous videos before, number one thing that I think is important in beating a defense is once you have that defense thinking. Once that defense is thinking and they're thinking about multiple things, you get that defense thinking about not knowing what to expect, obviously, but you just get them thinking, you get their head going, then they're not going to be able to play as fast. And they're going to be thinking more about the responsibilities and what if a receiver does this, or what if a running back does this, or what if they do this, or what if they motion to this. If you get them thinking, then you have more control over that defense because they're not going to be able to play as fast. They're not going to be able to react as fast. And they're not going to be able to fly to the football as fast. So what do you do with your receivers during your run schemes? So again, like the viewer asked, I'm going to focus primarily on our counter scheme. But what do the receivers do? Do they when you're calling this run? Are they just simply downhill blocking? Are they running an RPO? Are they running a screen? Do you mix in the RPO with the quarterback? Where you have that stick route if that linebacker triggers on the run. Multiple things. You have him blocking primarily just because the quarterback's going to pull it. So there's so many things you can do with the receivers, and I'm going to show you just a couple things here. But first, we're going to get into a little diagram because obviously this goes without saying that no matter what position you're talking about, whether you're talking about receivers, quarterbacks, running backs, offensive line, defense line, even going to the defense. Number one thing you need to be doing and focusing in on are fundamentals on whether, especially if we're talking about receivers, blocking in the run game. Obviously, you got to teach them fundamentals and stock blocking and things like that. Obviously catching. So every position has to be focused in on fundamentals. If you don't have those proper fundamentals, then everything else is that much harder to teach and harder for them to grasp if they don't understand those fundamentals. So the number one thing you need to be doing is teaching your players fundamentals. Here are some fundamentals that are pretty important to me, especially when it comes to the wide receiver position. Obviously getting low. You hear, no matter what position you talk about in football, you hear that famous saying, the low man wins. So that's no different in the wide receiver spot when you're trying to block that corner, that safety, getting lower than a defender and driving from your hips and legs. That is the number one proper thing to be teaching, is to get low. If they're standing straight up, they're going to get out leveraged. They're going to get overpowered. Okay, because once you get higher than the other defender, or once you get higher than the other player, then you lose all leverage, you lose all advantage. So teach them to get low. Keep them, have a strong base with their feet shoulder width apart, weight evenly distributed on both feet. So again, with getting low, you also need to have a good base, solid base, to where you're not going to lose balance, and that defender can't throw you off balance because, again, your weight is not evenly distributed. Keep your feet moving. Number one thing that I see with younger players is they block, and whether, especially when the younger crowd, they block, they put hands on, and they feel like they've done the job. They stop, everything just stops, and they turn around and want to watch the play. That's very, very prevalent, I guess you would say, with the younger crowd. Obviously, the older you get, the more reps you get, the less that happens, but it still does happen, or it's still an issue with some players that, the older they get. But you got to keep your feet moving. You got to keep driving. It's that common phrase, from snap to whistle. You got to play from snap to whistle, snap to whistle. And that means that if you are blocking, if your assignment is to block, then you need to be blocking full go and keeping your feet moving, keep driving that player away from the ball carrier. Get into the defender's body. You got to get close to him. All right, square up the defender, getting into his body with good hand placement and maintaining good leverage with a low center of gravity. So having great leverage and great hand placement. You talk about hand placement with the offensive line, but it's hand placement, underneath those shoulder pads in the chest, right by the armpits. That is good hand placement for receivers as well. You got to get in close. If you extend out, and have long arms and trying to block that way, then a defender can easily just rip through your block and go and make a play on the ball carrier. So you got to get into that defender's body, seal the block, whether you're trying to seal to the where you're trying to just turn the defender towards the sideline or the middle of the field to create a running alley. So if we're running to that side, the receiver, and it's more of an inside run, we're going to have the receivers kind of turn the defender towards the sideline and start driving them towards the sideline, create even more running lanes and more space in the middle of the field, and vice versa. If it's an outside run, we're going to try and attack that outside shoulder to try and seal that defender to the inside. Be physical. Obviously, that goes without saying. Football is a physical sport. You need to be physical, so you need to engage the defender, like I said, from snap to whistle. And don't always have to make contact for a block to be a good block. Getting in the defender's way can be just as effective. A lot of times, younger players especially think that they got to go and blow up the defender. So what do? They run directly at that defender, especially from the receiver position, right at where they are pre-snap. And by the time they get there after snap has happened, that player's not there because they've gone and reacted to the ball. Instead, teach your receivers, especially, that if they're blocking, whether it's on a screen, whether it's on a run, the player they're responsible for, they need to think about blocking where that defender is going to be, not where they're at right now, but where they're going to be. So based on the play that's called, if they're blocking, where is that player most likely going to be after the snap? And depending on where that player is more likely going to be trying to make a play on that ball, then that receiver needs to needs to beat that defender to that spot to set up that block, but they don't always have to make contact. That's the number one misconception. For a good block, especially from the receiver position, doesn't always have to make contact. If you're getting in the way and preventing that defender from making a play on the football, and if you didn't make contact at all, it's still considered a good block. The number one thing I do with receivers is I do the screens. I run bubble screens on our receivers, especially on a 2x2 set like this with any run. So if we're running counter, okay, so we're trying to run counter here. Let's run it. We're going to run counter to the right here. So let's set up our blocking scheme here. He's going to kick out here. He's going to wrap up through the hole. Okay. He's going to down block. He's going to down block here. He's going to reach to the backside linebacker. Okay, we got our jab step. And he is through the hole right there. Now, a lot of times what we do is, again, we are reading this backside defender right here. So a lot of times he's defended, but I like to provide the screen or the bubble screen on either side here. I like the bubble screen personally because it gets the player the ball faster. It's a shorter distance of a throw. Because my number one thing is to get a player the ball as fast as possible and get it in their hands as quick as possible. So we're going to run a bubble out here. And we are having most dangerous man here. So we're blocking most dangerous. Again, bubble here as well. Okay, so most dangerous. And really, what we're trying to do here, the first thing is it's a numbers game. So the quarterback is trying to figure out the numbers. Do I have the numbers on the outside or do I have the numbers for the run? Okay, so quarterback will come to the line pre-snap, and does he have the numbers or the matchup on the outside? So he's got two options. So really, he comes to the line. If he likes this side here, even though the run is going over here, doesn't necessarily have to throw the run or run the ball. He essentially can just get the snap right here and not even necessarily carry out the fake, but just get the ball out here as quick as possible, especially if we have a really, really good matchup here. Same thing here, too. If he likes the matchup out here, he can just basically just get the snap and then turn and throw. Running back's still going to try and carry out his fake. We're still going to run the counter we're going to start the blocking scheme set up with the O-line. You just get the ball there fast as possible. He can also play fake it. All right. So we can play fake it here if he wants to, just to see how the linebacker, or even if the safety's pressed down a little bit further, how they react. If they trigger off the run fake, he can pull the ball and then get it out here on the bubble as well. So there's a couple ways you can approach it. However you choose to is up to you. Done it both ways where the quarterback just has the option to just throw it out there right away. We've also play faked it too, just to see if we can get a linebacker or safety to trigger to kind of declare what they are doing. But like this, for example, just kind of this look right here. If we saw this, I'm telling my quarterback, throw this all day, especially to our H, because our H typically is our better receivers, our better playmaker, the best playmaker we have on the field. So we're throwing the ball right now. So this is one way. Again, it's a numbers game here. Try and equate the numbers. The numbers more advantageous for you in the run game or in the passing game. If you're not comfortable running the bubble screens or having your quarterback count the numbers or anything like that, and you just want your receivers to just straight up block, then for me, it is a simple rule of stalk blocking. Okay, so it's just matchup. So basically what we do, or what I do, is receivers. Okay, again, like I talked about early in the video, it's about beating them to a spot. So where is this corner? How's this corner going to react? Well, we can do one of two things with them. We can really kind of drive hard to kind of sell a vertical to get this player to the defender, and then all of a sudden this receiver kind of breaks down his stance and kind of just waits for that defender to react and then kind of just sets up the block. That's one way of doing it. Since this run is going more to the right here, then a lot of times what we do is I have this receiver kind of take a path this way, kind of try and get inside of the defender and then try and seal him off to the sideline. Same thing with our H. If he's responsible for that safety, he's going to make a hard charge here to try and get into a spot that's going to get in that safety's way and try and seal him off. Okay. Again, we're not running directly at the defender, because if that's the case, this defender is going to make a beeline this way and we're going to completely miss the block and it's going to be pointless. So again, advocating for that player to make a spot or play at the ball where that defender is going to be. Same thing here. Again, these are a little bit more important since it is to that direction. Going to have to beat to the inside right there and try and seal off to the inside. Same thing like that. So that's, again, if we are trying to block the receivers, that's what we are trying to do. Again, it's all about being to a spot. And like I talked about in the beginning of the video, don't necessarily have to make contact for it to be a successful block. They need to be getting in the way of the defenders to spring that runner and to not allow those defenders to make a play on the ball. The thing I like to do is just run a little RPO or attach an RPO to our run scheme. You could do this multiple ways. My favorite one is just the stick route. It's very easy to teach. Again, it follows the same concept as our normal stick concept, where that receiver is just trying to find that open window, that space that is created by the defense, and settle up in that window, showing hands for the quarterback. So in this case, a lot of times I like to do it to the backside. Obviously this would be a very, very tough, especially if we're running a stick route right here where that play is designed. Not good. So we would just keep this side. Either we would tell this side to block, or we could have a bubble on this side as well. So we'll just keep it as a bubble here. So we'll have the bubble there, and this defender or this receiver is blocking, most dangerous man. So the bubble here, but on this side, quarterback will then read this man. So if we're running the RPO here, you can read this man right here. And if this defender triggers, so if this defender triggers hard right here to come in on try and help with the run, then simply we'll just put this right back there. We can simply just run a stick route right here. And again, what does this defender do? So this defender triggers. If this defender triggers, then we can just replace his aggressiveness with the stick route, the RPO. The quarterback just pulls the ball and then throws it right where that defender was. So that's another way to do it. So those are 3 ways that I like to use my receivers, not just in counter, but in multiple runs. So whether we're talking about inside zone or we're talking about power, multiple ways to use your receivers, whether it's blocking, bubbles, or even RPOs. There you have it. I hope to the viewer who asked the question, I hope this helped. I hope this video helped answer your question and give you some ideas on what to do. I apologize for it being so late. Again, I've been extremely busy with the start of football season here in North Carolina. But if you take away anything from this video, the offense that I use, the offense that I love, the offense I'm passionate about, essentially there is no special playbook for it. It's again, it's a philosophy, it's a way of thinking. But if you take away one thing from this video, or from a lot of what I talk about on my channel, is that what we are trying to do is take advantage of numbers. It's a numbers game. And where are the numbers in your advantage? So the defense has to declare you're going to show formations, you're to try and put yourself in best advantage. But how can you manipulate the numbers advantage? Because there's always going to be a numbers advantage somewhere on the field that is to your advantage. And how can you do it to take advantage? What can you do to take advantage of those numbers? So it's always a numbers game. So that's what you should be thinking about when you're setting up your running schemes, your passing concepts. How can I take advantage of the numbers advantage in any particular part of the field, whether it's with the counter, using the RPOs, the bubbles, or just blocking, whatever it might be? How can you take advantage of the numbers game? And if you can figure that out, the offense becomes that much more easier to construct, that much more easier to call, and then eventually that much more easier for your players to execute. So again, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you leave a like. Also, if you have not done so yet, please subscribe to the channel, and I will see you in the next video.